hour. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host for this hour. You're listening to America's Voice Now. It is December 26th, the day after Christmas, 8:06 a.m. Kind of snowy and blustery here. Want to thank you folks for spending time with us this morning. If you are trapped at home, thanks for listening. If you're trapped in your car, thanks for listening and call 911. Or you can call us here at the radio station on our Wits End Hair hotline at 257-1111 and we'll get help for you. We'll arrange it somehow, some way. Just want to talk this morning in reference to our bullet points and provide some thoughtful analysis of the upcoming vote that's going to be occurring in Washington. We know that legislation is going to be submitted immediately after the first of the year. And I would encourage all of our legislators to seriously consider the issues surrounding this proposed legislation. If you are to look at the history of these shootings that this legislation is designed to prevent, you will find that over and over and over again that these shootings and or killings were committed by individuals who, one, either obtained those firearms legally and or obtained them illegally, but by stealing them from someone else, perhaps a parent, or in many cases, in almost all cases, a parent. I would encourage you to recognize the fact that for the 0.00000000001% of Americans who utilize a firearm in a dangerous manner, such as a school shooting or a mass shooting, if you will, that those individuals are the problem. It is not firearms that are the problem. It is the individuals themselves. And on almost every instance have a long history of mental imbalance. Attempting to thwart the firearms rights, and I do say rights, of every American in an effort to prohibit that minuscule percentage of our population who reacts badly or poorly or dangerously is completely and totally inappropriate. We don't ban vehicles because an individual drives while inebriated. We don't force vehicle manufacturers to put in a simple little thing like a safety brake so that when a powered window in a vehicle is being rolled up, a child cannot get their head stuck in there. Now, I know an individual who has lost a child as a result of this. This is a 50-cent fix per window. That's $2 per car. And our government won't force manufacturers to install that simple safety device. We don't ban bicycles because children fall from them. We don't ban swimming pools because children drown. We don't ban bathtubs because people drown. You don't ban the behavior, not the tool or the item that is used to create the bad behavior. And I would strongly encourage all of our legislators, both state and federal, to recognize the fact that the final straw in separating yourselves and determining your outcoming fate with the American people will be a finalized attempt to subjugate them, legislate them, regulate their firearms, and attempt to register or confiscate them. I can promise you one thing. I know enough Americans that will never turn their firearms in, that by a legislative initiative to either force them to register and or attempt to confiscate them will result in the ouster of everyone in Congress and will most likely result in a civil war in the United States of America. Because if you read our Constitution, the Second Amendment is there in second place for a very clear and specific reason. Its intent and its intention is to prohibit you, Congress, you, Senate, you, Mr. President, from exactly what you're attempting to do. Remember those words as you act in session. And that's it for the bullet points this morning. If you would like to call in on our Wits End Classic Barbershop Hair Hotline, you may do so. Our telephone numbers are 257-1111. That's 257-1111. 866-554-6636 if you are out in the hinterlands. I would like to remind you that we have Noel Flasterstein coming on this morning. He will be on with us at our 8:30 hour. Noel is an attorney. He is a nationally recognized firearms and gun rights expert. He is also a referral counsel for the NRA. So when, as an example, if the NRA receives a telephone call about a specific legal issue and they're in his area, the NRA provides his office's telephone number for people to be able to evaluate or to contact him and have him deal with the situation. Noel has a Facebook page, which you are welcome to visit, and it is facebook.com/gun rights for you. That's facebook.com/gun rights for you. That's FORYOU. Not teenage texting versions of for you. So you may feel free to visit Mr. Flasterstein's website or his Facebook page and determine whether he is positioned well in terms of the arguments that I'm sure all of us have in the back of our minds. I do want to thank, by the way, a number of folks who had graciously donated to the America's Voice Now project. There were a number of folks that utilized our new donate button on our website, and so I want to thank each and every one of you who did that. You know that this is a volunteer effort, that our focus and our efforts here at the station and on this show are exclusively voluntary, and so we greatly appreciate any support and assistance that you folks are willing to provide for us. The website for us, and of course where you can find news and information, daily breaking news, leads, and stories that are pertinent or in many cases written by me or by other individuals. You can visit us at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. We also have YouTube videos that we've recently just kicked off a YouTube channel last week, and so we've been uploading some of our shows to that website. You can find us there at youtube.com/America's Voice Now as well. So we try to make it simple. It's americasvoicenow.org, facebook.com/America's Voice Now, or youtube.com/America's Voice Now. That makes it real easy for you folks to find us. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You may hit thumbs up or thumbs down if you like or dislike a video on there. We'd like you to share those with your friends on Facebook and that kind of thing, because the more listeners we have, the more power that we have as a collective group. I do want to remind you that there are a number of initiatives right now in front of our state House and Senate, one of which is the ability for teachers to carry a firearm in school. Now, you know that I support that, and if you don't know, I'm here to tell you I support that. And the idea of a teacher being able to defend their students with something other than a pencil or a ruler or a pointer is, in my opinion, a good idea. Now, I strongly encourage those teachers who choose to do so to get the appropriate and proper training, but I believe that it is an absolute positive thing for our teachers to be able to do more than defend our children by throwing themselves in front of a would-be attacker. The school systems and school boards and individual principals have the power to be able to allow a teacher to carry, irrespective of state legislation. However, the ability for this legislation to be passed will go beyond the idea of school on school or school board or school superintendent or principal's limitation to bar those teachers who choose to do that from carrying. It will allow them to, irrespective of what the school board or principal says. And I think that's a good idea, because you're going to have some principals and school boards who are going to be obstinate and say, no, I don't like that. And so this takes it out of their hands and allows teachers to do it irrespective. I strongly encourage you to get a hold of your state senator and your state representative, many of whom were just newly elected, and encourage them to sign on to this particular legislation. Co-sponsor it, co-sign it, and make sure this gets passed immediately, if not sooner. There is also legislation as part of our Restore Missouri project that we're looking forward to, which is the Firearms Freedom Act. That states that any firearm made in the United States or in the state of Missouri can be bought, sold, traded, used, hunted with, whatever, without federal oversight. And I strongly encourage you to let your legislator in our state know that you not only support that, you demand that be passed. Okay? We're going to take a break. When we come back, I just want to mention a couple of great advertisers that we have with us, and we're going to keep our phone lines open and take your calls. Again, our phone number is 257-1111 and 866-554-6636. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Feel free to give us a call on our Wits End Hair Hotline. We'll be back in just a moment.
Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, Powerball Thursday, water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday, let's move Monday, Father's next Sunday. All the healthy children eat well and move a lot, and move a lot, and move a lot, eat well and move a lot.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day.
Skip a rope Saturday, freeze tag Friday, tap dance Thursday, whole grains Wednesday, try a veggie Tuesday, let's move Monday, split the sweet Sunday. Eat well and move a lot.
Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
America's Voice Now with Michael Evans.
Okay. Would like to remind you folks that our sponsor, the Battery Station, they sponsor our bullet points in the morning. They are running and closing out and by I think Friday, if I'm not mistaken, it's either Friday or Saturday of this week is the last day to get goods and products and donations into them for the 91st Airborne Cavalry Hatchet Squadron stationed in Afghanistan. You heard me talk about this before. These guys do great work. The battery station at 303 Washington Avenue donates a ton of products and ships them overseas to our soldiers over there, and they do this out of their own pocket, out of their own effort, and I applaud that. You should too, and I would like to make you aware that Friday, or I think it's either Friday or Saturday, is the last day for donations before these packages get shipped. The telephone number for you to call to confirm or get directions is 417, of course, 257-7799. That's 257-7799. You can also send them email at troops@batterystation.com. Now, they are looking for things like foot powder, unscented bar soaps, baby wipes, unscented baby wipes, please, coffee, tuna and salmon in foil packages, any kind of snacks, ramen noodles, anything you want to that our guys would really get a kick out of that's kind of back homey and at the same point in time won't spoil. All right, so it's got to be non-spoilable, of course, because this could take a while to get over to them and so forth and so on. So these guys are out there putting their lives on the line for us every single day, and I want to remind you and encourage you to let them know that we appreciate their effort. So this is the 91st Cavalry, Airborne Cavalry Hatchet Squadron. They are stationed in Afghanistan, and they are in a forward operating base, or what's called a FOB. That means that these guys don't get a chance to take showers, but maybe every 4 to 6 weeks. That's right, you heard me right, 4 to 6 weeks without a shower. I'll bet you don't go more than a couple of days at best without a shower before you begin to absolutely dream about one. So imagine what it's like for 4 to 6 weeks without one, right? I mean, most of us shower daily. Imagine what it would be like to not be able to take a shower for 4 weeks. So when we talk about baby wipes, now you know the reason why, and they have to be unscented. These guys would desperately love and desire for you to do that. I also want to thank the battery station for participating with us as a sponsor. This is a group that they're in 303 Washington Avenue in West Plains. They have an outstanding assortment of tactical gear, camping gear. They have a bunch of brand new Mountain House freeze-dried food they just brought in the other day in those number 10 cans. And I'm telling you, I've seen this stuff sell for $35 a can at other locations. He's selling this stuff for in the 20s per can. So make sure you get out there and you get, this is part of our cooperative effort, right? Make sure that you are putting food away for leaner days. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. I hope you had a nice Christmas.
I sure did, and I hope you folks did as well.
We did, and I had 2 points, small ones I wanted to make. First of all, I've already heard that our illustrious Governor Nixon is trying to squelch that bill.
Yep, he already came out and stated he's against it.
Right.
That means I'm for it, by the way.
Well, me too. I'm for it. And the other thing is, I was a little disappointed in the NRA. About just putting police in all the schools,
Yeah.
I've noticed over the years, and I've always been a big supporter of the NRA, that they keep getting more and more in bed with the police. Now, I don't know whether...
Yep. No, I hear you. They do. Your observation is correct. They get more and more in bed with the police, and they get closer and closer and closer to the administration. And these, they constantly are willing to step back from the line they've drawn on the sand and say, okay, one more step, and then they draw another line in the sand and say, now don't cross this one. And every time the line is crossed, they acquiesce, and I agree with you. That's why I support, by the way, the JPFO, which is Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. That's a group that their motto is not never again. I support the Gun Owners of America. That is an excellent organization. And the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the RKBA. Both of those are awesome, or all three of those are awesome organizations.
Well, the job of the police is to infiltrate all kinds of stuff. I mean, as a policeman, they investigate and infiltrate, and that's their job, see?
Sure.
Well, they started shooting at the ranges, and they're all patting everybody on the back, down there and all that. But here's the deal. When the law comes down and says we're going to take your guns, who do you think's going to take them, the Tooth Fairy?
Right. Well, they're going to try to use our National Guard, which is another Restore Missouri project, is to say that our federal government has no authorization to take our National Guard over and federalize them without without governor's written authorization. And then the next thing we got to do, of course, is get rid of this governor. So,
Well, good luck.
yeah. Hey, listen, I want to thank you. I've got a couple of other lines on the call, or lines lit up. Thanks so much for the call.
All right.
Appreciate
that's
you.
what I want to do.
All right. Thanks. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. One other thing, these guys needed these forward operating bases. Our Sunday school class took it on as a project this year to send them coffee.
Coffee. Good idea.
And hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't get it over there at these forward operating bases. They're out in the middle of nowhere,
Right. Hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Folgers sells those individual coffee bags, kind of like a tea bag.
Yeah, but they're not very good, really.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you there.
I've tried them, and they're not the greatest.
I take them camping when I go camping because they're quick and easy, and it's just a single cup. But you're right, they're not very good. But yeah, coffee, folks, absolutely.
Coffee and hot chocolate. We sent lots.
Absolutely, great point to bring out. Thank you so much for doing that. Hey, I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. So, folks, if you can support those folks, listen, our troops are out there every day fighting for us. And, forget politics, forget government, forget, your like or dislike of the war. These guys are embroiled in something that's bigger than themselves, and they're out there doing their duty as Americans. And so, irrespective of how you feel about the fact that we're over in Afghanistan or over in Iraq or over in anywhere else, it's our duty and our responsibility to make sure that our soldiers know that we love and care about them and we're thinking about them from home. We can never allow another generation of soldiers to feel forgotten. So you can get stuff down to the battery station and make sure that you're supporting them. I want to thank Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, and Mary over there is a great friend of ours. She was open late on Christmas Eve, which is unusual for her, and I went over there after the show, and I had some coffee with her, and I'll tell you what, she had run herself ragged. So thank you, Mary, for all the effort that you put forth to make so many great holiday specials for so many folks. I think that's wonderful. You can get to Chantilly's Artisan Bakery at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. Bill Stone is from Stone Construction, is a sponsor of ours and a great American and a great patriot. Bill can be found for doing things like remodeling in your home or new construction if you're so inclined, light commercial work, that kind of thing. Bill can be reached at 293-0116, and he's been in this business for 40 years. A great guy, and very, very skilled in his vocation. So make sure that you communicate with him. Also, I want to thank our Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance Group down in Mountain Home. And so if you're an Arkansas listener or a Southern Ozarks listener, by all means, you can feel free to contact them and get down there. They are on, I think it's Route 62, it's called there, just before that Walmart area. And it's Ozark MTN selfreliance.com. They have camping gear and freeze-dried foods and self-reliance gear, and they have an oven that you can. It's a Sun, a Sun manual oven, and you can bake bread and all kinds of things in these. If you've ever watched them on YouTube, it's pretty interesting. You can get a hold of Brian down there at 870-492-4030, and talk to him about what their inventory is like and what you can do to help make sure that your family is self-reliant. We have TAC 1 pistol training and CCW classes coming up right after the first of the year. If you are, this is your final call to, we'll have dates for those. I believe on January, let me just pull up a calendar here so I'm not blowing smoke at you guys. But on January, oh, come on. Why is this computer so archaic? Okay, on January 7th and... Oh, this is ridiculous. January 5th and 6th, there are going to be CCW classes. If you would like to participate and take a CCW course, let me know. Send me an email immediately. I'll get you out details on that. And on the 12th and 13th, I believe we're doing a TAC 1 class, and that's that two-day pistol class. One you absolutely have to be participating in. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show. You got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was just curious. Everybody keeps talking about gun laws and, giving teachers weapons in the school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about deterrent? Rubber bullet, beanbag guns, tasers, mace? That way, because by the time, okay, let's say they do put a lot of restrictions on our guns, they're going to do it like they did the last time.
Well, they're not going to do it because we're going to stop them. That's the deal. We're not going to allow that again, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to hear any talk about we're going to allow them to do a damn thing. They don't have a right to ban us from owning anything.
But the last time they done it, they didn't do anything.
No, you're absolutely right.
And off compensators, and we are still right in the same situation we're in.
You're exactly right. We went through that experiment, and it was an abject failure, so never again. Hey, listen, I want to thank you for the call. We'll be back in just a moment, folks.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The looming fiscal cliff partly to blame for a disappointing holiday sales season so far.
Retail figures suggest there are fewer gifts to return today. This holiday shopping season considered the worst in 4 years in terms of year-to-year growth. Sales of electronics, clothing, jewelry, and home goods the past 2 months were up just 0.7%.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern, it brought some 36 tornadoes to the south.
Man, all the debris, the windows were blowing out.
One eyewitness in Mobile, Alabama. Now people in the Northeast are starting to feel the effects of that destructive storm system.
Not just because of the snowfall, but because of the wind, whiteout conditions expected. It's likely that today we will be seeing some flight cancellations across places across the Great Lakes, even into the Northeast.
Fox meteorologist Maria Molina. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Donahue Auction Services salutes the men and women in uniform. This holiday season, let's remember them in our thoughts, prayers, and letters from home. Their efforts abroad and our support at home keeps America strong. That's Donahue Auction Services, serving Missouri and Arkansas. Your professional auctioneers with the right knowledge and expertise to handle all your auction needs. Whether it be estate sales, luxury, jewelry, or memorabilia, rely on the best. That's Donahue Auction Services, 417-256-9667. That's 417-256-9667.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
This is Janet with Earl's Dodge Chrysler Jeep in West Plains and invite you to test drive a new Dodge Dart. The Dart is loaded with innovative technology, class-leading safety features, and clever functionality. The new Dodge Dart sets a new standard in the compact car segment by offering unmatched personalization, roominess, style, functionality, and fun-to-drive dynamics. We have them now at Earl's Dodge Chrysler Jeep, North Highway 63 in West Plains, during the big finish of 2012, where buying a vehicle is simple as it should be.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we'll have areas of blowing snow. Mostly cloudy skies will gradually become sunny with a high of 35 today, while a wind gust at 30 miles an hour. It'll be partly cloudy tonight with a low of 17. Thursday should be a mostly sunny day with a high of 36. Thursday night looks mostly cloudy, a low of 23. Friday will wrap up the week with a mostly cloudy day, our high 41. Again, for today, our high 35, and I'm Rod Tanner. For more information, check out our website, the all-new www.my1071thepoint.com.
America's Voice Now with Michael Evans.
Well, we are back, and we are being joined this morning by Noel Flasterstein. He is a nationally recognized gun rights expert. He is an attorney, And he is also a referral counsel from the National Rifle Association. And so when as an example, if an individual calls up the NRA and they're a member and they have a question regarding legal issues and they're in his area, which I understand is Florida, then by all means the NRA refers Noel to them. Good morning, Noel. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm glad to do so. We're in we're a very very strong and conservative area here. This gun rights issue is really hitting home here, and so there's a lot of local concerns about it, and we'd like to get maybe a national perspective from a guy who has a good understanding of what goes on in some other areas in the nation. You're in Florida, and you guys are pretty advanced in the firearms thing. We have legislation here driving towards getting teachers to carry in schools, and we're pushing for the firearms freedom legislation, which would allow guns made here to not be subject to federal legislation. Maybe you can give us your thoughts on those issues.
Well, first of all, in terms of let me applaud the legislatures and the public. And you're in Missouri, correct?
Yes, sir.
In your state that support that. The only other state that I know that permits its school employees and school officials to carry onto school property is Georgia. And you don't hear about mass shootings occurring at the schools of Georgia. And ultimately, I think, given the tragedy that recently occurred in Connecticut, one little thing like that could have been the deciding factor in averting the tragedy that occurred there. Now, obviously, with what has happened in Connecticut, I believe our Second Amendment right is in more danger than it's ever been before. Not because there was a mass shooting. Unfortunately, we live in a world where they happen, and they happen in America, and they happen in other parts of the world as well. But because we have 20 dead innocent children, and this just creates the situation of what I would call emotionally induced public statement legislation. Because anyone who stands up for the Second Amendment, that stands up for gun rights, will now be, branded a supporter of child deaths, a child killer, things of that nature. We saw something very similar to this way back in I believe it was the early 80s, when a basketball player named Len Bias died. And what that resulted in was these mandatory minimum drug dealers were given mandatory minimum sentences. And you know what? And drug dealers are bad guys, and they should get them. But I have something wrong. To me, there's something wrong when there's someone that sells marijuana, and they got this federally mandated mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years, and then someone can be convicted of second-degree murder,
and get
they're
3
out
or
5 years.
Yeah.
3 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It makes no, and that was, the legislature saying we got to do something about drugs. So let's create these laws so you can see that we're against drugs. And we're going to see that same thing happen here with our Second Amendment. We're out to protect the children. We're going to do this and that, and this to protect the children, which I don't think it's going to have that effect. One, and more importantly, and I'm kind of glad this has popped on the table. So it's not just the people such as myself, such as your listeners, that appreciate our Constitution, appreciate our Second Amendment. It's not just that right that's going to be under attack, but I've heard them talking about movies and video games.
Yeah.
So these First Amendment advocates, they're gonna feel the heat of this too, if they permit. If we, as a people, permit our legislatures to go in there and just do whatever politically expedient to make the statement that they're here to protect children, when in fact, when your state has actually taken a step in the right direction. You know what? Most states, Florida amongst one of them, which I am a resident, prohibit the carrying of firearms onto public universities, secondary schools, elementary schools. The idea is that we'll protect the children because we won't allow guns on there. Well, that obviously had no impact or occurred in the thought processes of Mr. Lanza. In fact, it probably motivated him to go to a school because knowing the likelihood that he would encounter somebody armed was greatly reduced.
Sure.
And that's why we see a lot of these shootings occur on school campuses because, by and large, they're prohibited. Now, your state is taking the right step. Hey, you know what? We're going to protect our children by allowing our school officials and responsible adults, which, you know, be on the school ground anyways, unless they're not a felon, unless they have a good criminal background check. So we know we got that right there. So now, trust these people to have firearms to protect our children if need be. Now, it's sad that that's the world we live in, but it is the world we live in.
Right. Let's not live in fantasy and utopian, idealism. Let's live in reality.
and that's where most of these people, they're looking for a quick, short answer. Well, we're going to ban guns and we're going to protect our children. No, we are going to subject our children to greater danger. So then they say, well, we'll just ban guns outright. Well, guess what? We'll have a lot of people that are law-abiding now all of a sudden may decide to no longer be law-abiding, but most probably are going to comply, and now we're going to see an increase in the crime rate because gun control obviously helps and promotes the criminal enterprise and industry. The gun owner is and the family and the home that has firearms in its house, as you know, it creates an occupational hazard for the would-be burglar and robber.
Right.
And this goes beyond common sense. All we have to do is look at the Federal Bureau of Investigation's crime data. Here in my state, we've had an expansion of gun rights since 1987 and 2005. We enacted our stand your ground law where you could rightfully protect yourself and not be subject to a criminal prosecution. And our crime rate here in the state of Florida has dropped. Now, I'm not just saying this out of thin air. I've reviewed the matter. I've looked at the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement Statistics, and it's dropped overall in our country as a whole. Has there's been an expansion and a recognition of gun rights, the crime rate has dropped. Because if I'm a would-be burglar and I know one house is armed, that there's a gun owner in that house, and the one next door to it's not, obviously it's sure. Obvious which one I'm going to go into or attempt to attempt my crimes.
Criminals always operate under the path of least resistance. That's why they rob little old ladies, not big strapping, men, right? And when they're trying to do an armed robbery. And, it used to be, I grew up in New York and New Jersey. And it's funny because I remember when I was a kid, the going thing around used to be, if you're going to rob a bank or if you're going to rob someone, don't actually... you get more time for armed robbery than you do for attempted murder. And since they always charge you with the worst crime, shoot the guy in the leg before, if you know you're going to get busted, shoot the guy in the leg because then they're going to charge you with attempted murder, which gives you like 2 to 3 years, versus armed robbery, which gives you 10 to 15. I mean, how asinine and ridiculous. That's just the unintended consequences of law. And I think that, they're not considering the fact that by trying to do these bans and this kind of thing, they're going to turn a vast significant portion of our nation into instantaneous felons and create a crime rate that didn't exist before.
Without a doubt. And the thing we also got to look at, the Second Amendment is a constitutional right. And it has really nothing, which I hear these idiots on occasion, they'll get up there and they'll hold up a pistol, they'll hold an actual AR-15 and they'll go, what do you hunt with this and what target practice is this? There's nothing in the Constitution about hunting and target practice. There's nothing at all. It's just the basic, our right to keep and bear arms. And that's that. That's not even in the equation. But here again, we have these emotionally induced, let me make a public statement, kind of comments that come out of our legislatures. Obviously, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What's funny is out here, where we have these huge ranches and large swaths of land, we do use AR-15s to hunt coyotes and things like that all the time. And if you're a rancher and you got a coyote problem, let me tell you, the AR-15 around here is the weapon of choice because you get, a bullet that has a real flat trajectory for a long way, and you can literally take out a coyote with it and not have to overkill with a .308 or something bigger. So, the idea of an AR-15 around here is very, very commonly used for exactly that.
And what we really need to look at, because it's really nothing to do the type of weapons that gentleman used. I agree with many people. What really needs to be looked at is the mental health issue aspects of this.
Sure. Every one of these guys has had a mental health problem. I mean, historically, if you look back at all of the history of all of these shooters, they all had a mental health problem.
Correct. And you know what? We have laws, the HIPAA laws, which protect an individual's privacy. Well, first of all, I don't see nothing in the Constitution that specifically states that they're going to protect privacy rights. We don't have a 10th or 11th or 12th Amendment saying we have a right to privacy. Now, it's inferred, with unlawful searches and seizures, okay, we have a right to privacy, and then you make the jump to abortion, which, I'm against, whatever. I don't think there's a privacy right there created in the Constitution for that. But we definitely do have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. This is what our founding fathers and mothers thought important enough. Obviously, our country was born on out of revolution. Recognize people have to have the ability to protect themselves from a tyrannical government if one should ever come to power. Well, since our history, we haven't had a tyrannical government come to power, and that, I believe, is the effect of the Second Amendment. Most people think we have three branches of government, that being the executive referring to the presidency, the Congress referring to the House and the legislature, the legislature referring to the House and the Congress, and of course the judiciary referring to the courts.
We got a hard break coming up. We'll be right back. Hang on with us.
Sure.
We'll be right there.
Okay, Jimmy, we just need to pick up some light bulbs.
Which ones are we supposed to buy, Grandpa?
Well, we can save money by using an energy-saving incandescent CFL or LED.
How about this bulb?
We need to replace a 60-watt bulb. That one is 800 lumens, so it should do the trick.
Lumens?
Lumens tell us how bright the light is. The more lumens, the brighter the bulb.
Grandpa, you're pretty bright yourself.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
Later, much later, we heard something. We didn't breathe for listening. Then footsteps on the back porch, creeping, then more confident. After all, nobody was home. A hand closed on the knob on the screen door to the kitchen and found it latched. We heard a little sawing sound as a file began to slice through the screen wire. Grandma reached down for something in her sewing basket. Through the darkness, I managed to notice Grandma's rocker was rocking and she wasn't in it. She was standing over me. "Keep just behind me," she whispered. I followed her across the room into the kitchen. Now we were by the door, and I heard the scuffle of heavy feet in there on the crinkly linoleum. Grandma turned back to me. Under my nose, she struck a wooden match with her thumbnail. She touched the match to something in her other hand. It sizzled. Then she leaned down and rolled it into the invisible kitchen. Explore new worlds. Find out what happens next by reading the book A Long Way from Chicago by Richard Peck. For other great book ideas, visit literacy.gov. A message from the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
America's Voice Now with Michael Evans.
Okay, Noel, thanks, by the way, for taking that break with us. I apologize, but those are automated breaks, so, this is capitalism at work, right? So sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You got it. So, yeah, the issues as I see them around are that they're really focusing on the wrong thing. They're focusing on something that ultimately has much less to do with the problems that we've experienced with these school shootings than the mental health issue. And you're absolutely right that, the laws prohibit the ability of individuals. And, the ACLU has been one of the ones out there fighting to say, hey, if a guy wants to sleep in a refrigerator box on the side of the road and he's obviously mentally deranged, he's got a right to live that way if that's what you want. And that's one thing when a guy is just a helpless drunk. It's another thing when the guy is mentally deranged like this kid up in Newtown and, goes off half-cocked. I mean, this kid was a ticking time bomb. It was only a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly. And his mother had to know. And me personally, I believe Mrs. Lanza, God have mercy on her soul, is responsible, partially responsible. She didn't pull the trigger, but she is responsible for her son, obviously being aware of his mental health difficulties and issues, and him getting access to those firearms. Here in my state in Florida, I bet you got a comparable law in your state of Missouri. If a child gets access to one of my firearms and hurts himself or hurts another person, I'm criminally liable. Now, likewise, we need to have the same sort of, our state and every other state needs to have, laws where if you're a caregiver for a mentally ill person, then you need to be responsible if they get access. Also, we need to loosen up these right to privacy laws. Right now, people want to compromise our Constitution in the name of public safety, which I don't think it's going to have that effect at all. Hey, we don't need this. Public safety is more important. Well, I think an individual's right to privacy was kind of lost when we do have public safety concerns like we had with Connecticut, which is obviously what it is. And people, if I'm a healthcare professional, a mental health care professional or a healthcare provider, I need to be able to communicate to the appropriate authorities or to the appropriate individuals my concerns without fear of being in violation of these laws.
Right.
And this is exactly what the kind of legislation that would help in these situations, as opposed to, well, let's ignore our Constitution, take away guns, which is not going to have the effect that they want. It's what we're going to see. It's like we've seen in England and like we've seen in Australia, where they've essentially done away with private ownership of firearms, is an increase in crime that we just don't have here in America.
Right. And we don't have to look back long in history to see it. When they did it in 96 in Australia, their home invasion rate went up 69% and their murder rate went up 19%. When you look back at what happened in England, it's the same deal. And those people are now marching. I have a couple of videos up on our website, americasvoicenow.org, where they actually have protests in the streets now to get their gun rights back. and of course their government ignores them, but I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people, marching on their parliament saying, we want our gun rights back, because they realize the folly of what they did.
And having an assault weapon ban or ignoring our Second Amendment is not, and creating legislation that tramples on it, that violates the Constitution, is not going to create a safer situation for children. It's going to create a more dangerous situation, as we've seen with both England and Australia.
Yeah. When our callers call in and say, well, this coming ban, and I'm like, wait a second, let's stop right there. I don't want to talk about a coming ban. It's our job to stand up and tell our government, hell no, not again. We did that once. It was a failed experiment. We're not going to go there again. It didn't work then, and it's not going to work now.
Legislation that prohibits, obviously, is not effective. I mean, it's against the law to use drugs. We still have a drug problem in America.
Right, exactly.
You think we would have learned from Prohibition? What did we do? We outlawed alcohol. I don't drink, but hey, it's not for me to tell other people whether they want to drink or not. We outlawed alcohol, so we put revenues and created these criminal organizations and empires, which ultimately, eventually, when we repealed that legislation, we're able to get a handle on that. We still have problems with alcohol.
Sure.
We still have problems with drugs. Legislation that prohibits is not going to change it, because there's going to be people that are going to violate it. But obviously, in this context of the Second Amendment, the effects, how it'll affect the American citizen, we really can't tell. So, I mean, what will happen? Like I was saying earlier, we got three branches of government: the executive, legislative, and the judiciary. But I submit we have a fourth branch, and that's called us, the people.
Exactly. And we actually have the power.
Correct. And what gives our checks and balances on the other branches is our right to vote. And what gives that right to vote any meaning, any substance, is our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Because if you're going to ignore the will of the people, even though you're going to do it illegally when they have expressed themselves legally through voting, say, hey, I'm just going to ignore that. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, how you want to look at it, if you have that situation, we're an armed populace. You can't just trample on us, and that's the true American experience. And that's what our founding fathers and founding mothers, the women supporting our great leaders and founding fathers, what they envisioned, and that is what worked. Most people aren't aware of this. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan, the Japanese Empire, considered, well, let's go ahead and we're on a roll, we've got some momentum, let's go ahead and attack California. But they didn't do it. And what came into their consideration is if we attack California, not only are we going to have to deal with the military, but Americans allow their people to have arms, and we're going to have to contend with that. So they opted not to do that.
Sure.
So just the existence of our Second Amendment
deterred them.
Deterred them. It stopped an invasion on our soil. It stopped it. We've never had an invasion on our soil, and one of the reasons is the Second Amendment. Not only are you going to deal with the military, you're going to deal with the armed population, because most people that don't want to do anything with the military or not into that military. I've got plenty of nerdy friends that, they're not military guys. But if there's somebody marching down this street, put a gun in their hand, they got no other options. They're going to protect their country. Fortunately, we've never been in that situation, and hopefully we never will.
Well, at the rate that our current federal government is going, we may end up actually finding that, we have to be partisans in our own nation. And I think that it's unfortunate because, we're headed down the road to fascism with this current administration. And I think it's apparent in so many different ways with the types of legislation and the crony capitalism and as capitalism is fracturing and coming apart at the seams, because it's not of the corruption and so forth involved in it. It was Stalin who said that capitalism, or fascism is capitalism in decline. And I think we're seeing that right now. And unfortunately, by turning around and trying to do these types of bans, I suspect that there may be an unintended consequence to that. And if our government continues to march down this road and they try to make half of our nation felons overnight by banning these things or banning the sale and transportation or possession or whatever, or insisting on a gun turn-in confiscation, we are going to see American citizens turn into partisans right here against our own government. I think it's dangerous territory.
And you're very correct. And guess what? Be careful, because now you're going to be considered a conspiracy theorist when you make a comment like that, which is a very valid point. And what most people, and what you're saying, there's a lot of, somebody's going to say, wow, how's he making that leap? That sounds crazy. Well, no, it's not, because also on the table, because of Newtown, Connecticut, is they want to look at movies and video games, right? So where does that go? Yeah, we're going to say you can't, we're going to let our government say, certain movies will be allowed, certain won't. Why? Public safety, because this kind of movie is just gratuitous violence, and it's going to promote the kind of things that happen in Newtown, Connecticut. Okay, well, movies, okay, fine. But how far is that a jump from, hey, we got to stop this kind of political speech, this kind of opinion that's being expressed, because that's going to incite violence, and we need to have public safety. So what you're saying, some people might be listening going, well, that's quite... No, it's not, because we're not just looking at the Second Amendment right now with what happened in Newtown. We're looking at the First Amendment as well, which could easily... It's up there. They mention it, but no one's complaining.
No, on the flip side of this fence, this is something that I talk about on a routine basis. Our Department of Homeland Security in the last 4 years has ordered 2.5 billion rounds of ammunition. I mean, who the hell are they going to use that against if not us? They're a domestic agency. And so, when you look at that, when you look at the surveillance network that they're building, when you look at the fact that Eric Holder gave our government without authority of any kind, permission to monitor every American citizen, cameras, all of this stuff that's going on in our society, it's all leading down this road. And at some point, America is going to have to say, I'm on one side of the fence or the other. And I hate to think that this would be the determining factor, but it well could be. And I think, at some point between something like this or something like, an economic collapse, which is almost imperative at this point anyway, we are going to see major upset in our society over the course of the next couple of years. So, hey, listen, we're out of time, and I want to thank you very much for joining with us this morning. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. I'll make sure I let our listeners know where they can find you out on there on Facebook as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Have a great day, and Merry Christmas to you and your family as well.
And likewise, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes, thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this show for the day. If you've got some email for us, you can contact me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. When we explore these things, folks, we're not trying to drive any kind of specific behavior, but, you got to look at the long-term ramifications of things. That's how bills get passed and unintended consequences occur. And our job and our goal is to not only look at what is going on on around us, but to try to decipher what the unintended consequences will be. Had our government looked at the end result of prohibition, I wager that they probably would not have passed it originally. So we got to make sure that we do not let another gun ban pass, folks. It can't happen on our watch. Hey, listen, you all have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We are going to have let's see, Sheriff Richard Mack with us tomorrow, by the way, for the entire hour. So make sure you're participating and listening tomorrow. We're going to have Sheriff Richard Mack. Hey, have a great day.
107.1 The Point, KBMV, Birch Tree, West Plains.
Fox News Radio, I'm Salchi Ingrasso. The president's returning to Washington from his vacation in Hawaii and